Hello there, Vic Benedict here. We're playing Warhammer 40K, Space Marine 2, and this is my Angel of Death difficulty guide and walkthrough. We're currently on Operation 3 of 6. It is entitled Machinus Divinitas. So overall, I would say it's a quite difficult chapter. You've got a hard mid-level boss, and then you've also got that reactor section that I mentioned in the last video that was particularly difficult because it doesn't carry over the same sort of considerate checkpoints that the game often gives you like 90% of the time, and they throw you in a real bad spot as far as needing you to do something that really would benefit from a checkpoint, if nothing else for the consistency of the other checkpoints that you're given so frequently in the game. And I know that they can throw a wrench in the works sometimes and make you do sections that are harder and things like that. And I do appreciate that, and I respect that for game makers. Now, I have brought the Power Sword into this chapter, and the reason for that is just for some variety. This weapon has two stances. To change the stance, you hold whatever melee attack you have assigned to melee. So in my case, it's X. But for you, it would be reload the R1 button, I suppose. And if it's not, just consult the default controllers, because I've got my controls all mixed up. But it does have two stances. Switching stances is performed by just holding the melee button for a certain amount of time. You go slower, but you do heavier attacks. And then with the swifter movement speed of the weapon, it's the opposite, in fact. So as far as the raw power, I don't know the specs for all those, and I also don't know if the chainsaw is more powerful than the power sword, or if the power sword's more powerful than like the hammer or different things. So those specs are all listed in the game. Over here, there's an optional room. You might want to come over here, because if I'm remembering this correctly, there could be a Guardian relic over here. And if there's not, there's at least something else like two crack hits. Yeah, we have a hard fight with the Carnifex coming up, and it's one of those bosses that has a lot of lackeys. It's in a small room. He's a big guy, and so are we. So to do the bullet time dodges around him can seem like you're asked to do the impossible, pretty much. But they do work. It's just that he's got these quirky things that he does, like having you get bullet time off him, and then instead of having the reticle, he'll go underground and kind of bait you over to where he's at and want you to hit him. But if you stay too long nearby him and hit him like the game wants you to, he'll punish you badly and take both your shields off. So what I would recommend is that we recommend for you the crack grenades on him. Now, there are frag grenades and there are crack grenades in the boss arena, but I think it's nice to be able to go there with, and I'll have to restart because the footage that you see me get to him with, I'll only have the frag grenades. And I'm not too far into the chapter, so I believe I'm going to go back into the battle barge and redo this and get there with crack grenades. Because you can throw a couple of on him early on and then pick up two more, and those deal a really good amount of damage. I think the Guardian Relic is in here, so if you don't have one, you shouldn't have one, actually, since I don't have one. Yeah, here we go. Because they strip all of your gear and your accessories and everything else before that. And then, if you need health and you don't want to waste a med kit, use the Righteous Fury. The med kits on this hardest difficulty give you less back, as you could expect. So sometimes it might be beneficial to use the Righteous Fury and get a little bit more back than you might ultimately get. Over here, you might want to pick up a bolt rifle with the sniper on it. I don't think that I do. Don't forget that med kit. This is a situation where you're going uphill. There's snipers uphill, and you can't go any way you want because there are some gaps in between the bridges up here. So what you need to do is take out any sniper that you can first, and if you just can't reach them, try to maneuver yourself behind cover and maybe throw some frags to light up the enemies and weaken them. And then click in the stick and lock in your executions. And then just rush these guys, because if you're hanging back too much, you're probably going to find yourself in a position where you're getting overrun by the snipers and getting bogged down by other enemies. See, that was a classic example, just classic. I wasn't paying attention to the sniper that had spawned over to the right, and I paid the price dearly. But I was able to make up for it in my own pathetic way by having a couple of guys get executed over here. So the conceit over here is that once you interact with the panel for the bridge, it's not going to work at first. So you're going to have to withdraw from the panel. Fortunately, you get a checkpoint at that exact moment, which is very nice. And then you're going to have some more Tyranids to deal with. As far as projectiles over here, you have, that was pure greed too. You've got shock grenades. Now, I can't speak too much of the shock grenades because I haven't used them very much. But I would imagine that if you're just shocking an enemy, you're forestalling his death. Whereas if you use a frag grenade, you can, if you're accurate enough, you don't need to forestall anybody's death. The death occurs right out. So these shock grenades, I am going to pick these up and at least slow down some of the advances of the Tyranids over here. But I will be swapping back to the crack grenades. So here's the checkpoint right here. And then the ambushes are going to occur over here to the left. Shock grenades. See, this must have been an additional take where I died, and I decided to do it a little differently. The area that I'm aiming at now, where those blue canisters are, you'll have some snipers coming in at certain points in the fight. I don't know. I'm hoping that they spawned in early, but they don't appear to do so. You have to kind of wait here. So I'm going to throw some shock grenades down here to, like I said, just keep them in place a little bit. But once you start seeing any snipers get near these blue canisters, shoot the canister. That will kill the Tyrannoid to prevent him from spam shooting you with his poison shit. And there might be a couple of these guys over here. I'm not sure, but at least take out that one. And then here's the first instance of picking up a heavy weapon. Now, remember what I said before. If you pick up a heavy weapon, whatever other melee weapon you have is supplanted, meaning that you'll no longer be able to use the prior heavy weapon, and instead you'll no longer be able to use your traditional melee weapon, whether it's the sword or the chainsaw or the hammer, and you'll instead hit with the actual heavy gun. Your gun will be the melee attacks. So if you don't want that, I believe you try down on the D-pad, see if that works. I think that does, actually, because I don't think any other actions are assigned to down on D-pad by default. But you just continually need to be looking for these warriors, anybody near those exploding barrels, and that will be a good job for you. Hopefully a good job that's all finished for you. Okay, so we've got an ammo cache over there. I've picked up my crack grenades, and then we do pretty soon have an escort mission. And remember earlier in the walkthrough I was talking about how this game has a fucking fetish for these sorts of things, these escort missions. Well, a fetish is more of a preoccupation or a sexual preoccupation with an inanimate object. For instance, if you're a man and you had a fetish for panties, you wouldn't be able to have an erection unless you your partner was in those panties. Because if you have a panty fetish, is what it is. It's because the panty is inanimate, so you can only reach sexual desire if you have your partner in that, or if you're wearing those, or if you're holding them in your hand. I don't know the ins and outs of it. I don't have any fetishes like that, but I'm just telling you that I was definitely wrong. I knew that this moment I said that I was wrong about it being a fetish that these people like these sorts of escort missions. But let's just call it an obnoxious preoccupation with escort missions. But at least none of them really devolve into the obnoxiousness of the God of War 2 Protect the Translator escort mission that I think we can all agree is one of the worst escort missions in gaming. Now, how hard is this escort mission? Because it's the second one we face, and we'll face more. Well, instead of it involves the same sort of conceit. Ground-based enemies. I don't think any aerial enemies, so that's a nice blessing. But it will have, your traditional lower class of Tyrannoids, higher class of them, and the krill that attack not the antennas this time, but chains. And since we used the bolt rifle last time to demonstrate how to do it, I wanted to show you that you don't have to use it on this, and that it's highly possible to do this chain sequence escort mission without the bolt rifle. And indeed, did you need the chainsaw? Did you need the bolt rifle grenade launcher for the previous escort mission? The answer is no. You didn't need it. It's helpful, but it's by no means crucial or necessary to have. But again, just look out for any spores over here, because these are gonna land and turn into barbs. But again, you need to be focusing your attention less on the enemies and more on the incendiary canisters nearby any of those enemies. I mean, try to have a double vision as far as that. Try to look everywhere at the same time, in as much as that's possible. But these enemies, they can rush you up here, so as long as you're on top of them, they shouldn't get too much of a foothold. Although, see what I mean? We were too slow to keep them off here. I believe there are some incendiary canisters up here, and now I've maxed out my my poison damage attributes, and now I'm going slower and my vision's impeded, which is always quite nice, and I like that quite a bit. But I was going to play Wukonger before this. I know it's not called Wukonger, but I was given to call it Wukonger after I played it, and I hated it. But it looks like a fantastic overall story type of game. But for melee combat, I just think it had a lot to be desired as far as not the weapons themselves, but just the combat attributes of it, because there's no parrying in that game that I've ever found out from anyone. It's just you dodge a lot, so I wish there was an emphasis on both dodging and parrying, but it seems to cater to the lowest denominator of people who like, beautiful games that aren't very challenging and don't have much depth to the mechanics. But if you are like that and you like those types of games, don't listen to me and not play those games, because if they're fantastic for you, then definitely, jump on anything you can that you enjoy. I sure as hell do, because I can hardly find anything that I do enjoy. So we have an ambush over here, and as far as, if you don't see, I don't have any grenades right now, but I do know that there are some crack grenades on the bridge that we're going to be on. I think it's like a floating bridge over to the right. So this doesn't need much explanation. Hopefully I can dispense with talking about this. Although we have a digger Tyrannoid over here. But the thing is, you're going to be ushered into the next part, but don't hit the activation switch until you have either fully acquainted yourself with where all of the pickups are, or gone through enough to know where things are in the heat of the battle, or I guess there's a part C to this, or C, if you're sure enough that once you press the switch that you can grab whatever you want real quickly. So I would recommend the auto bolt rifle, even though I passed it up. Oh, so what I did actually was I went around this area, picked exactly what I wanted up, and then I pressed the switch so that you can do it that way, and then that way you can just pick exactly what you want up under no duress. I swear I saw a fucking crack grenade over here, and then I didn't ever get to find it afterwards. And then I think it's the last crack grenade that you can pick up before the Carfax boss fight. So I do know that this chain here on which these krill are going to alight is the first chain that they always do alight on. So this is a great weapon. It's a midline weapon like I mentioned before. And you just need to get on these real quick. And just like in the first Esquire mission, on the very first section, you're not molested by other enemies while you're trying to do this. Double back. Try to throw some frags at these clusters of enemies because they will be gunning for you. And from this point forward, I am looking for those crack grenades that I have no idea where they are. Maybe I dreamt and I saw them. I don't know, but it was quite frustrating to get to the Carfax boss and not have those because I like to immediately throw them on and then get more from that. There's frag grenades. That's fine. I just I don't know. Maybe there are no crack grenades over here, but I swear I saw them. So I'd hate to think my AI picked them up or something like that. I don't think they do that. But here's the second chain, and it's the same conceit from before. You'll see a danger flashing signal, and then you take care of everybody. Try to preserve your health as much as possible. There's stim kits all around here, over here. That's why I said acquaint yourself with all the stuff first before you go, into this, because once you start doing this and it's so chaotic, you'll really want to know where everything is located. But even if you know exactly where every minutia of every item is and every hidden spot, when you're doing this, you're getting so turned around constantly from having to turn the camera all the time trying to locate threats. And in the back of your mind, you're trying to do this quickly and get in some good parries to regenerate your shields. But at the same time, you're also really worried about getting these threats down. Now, on this particular run, I think I went down to like 13% of the shields left. I do know when I did this chapter originally, and I wasn't satisfied with it, and I deleted it. I believe I had upwards of 30%. So it just goes to show you that you don't need to get a high percent. You can get a lower percent, like 13, like I got over here, and be perfectly fine. So, these are very dynamic situations, and they're very chaotic. I know I've said that a lot, but they are pure basic shitfests. I mean, there really is no way around that. So pick up a stim if you can. Do an offhand or off-screen perfect parry. I love the implementation of that. And then just go around and lock in any executions that you can, because the shields are going to have to be absorbed and taken off before your actual damage gets taken off. So that's why you always want the shields. Okay, so any more? Yeah, it looks like we have a chain that's under threat, but not immediately so. Maybe it is immediately so. Yep, danger. See where it says defend and it's flashing? That means you definitely have a chain under assault. And then for weapons, I was thinking about weapons for this boss. I actually came there with the sniper rifle because I don't know. I didn't come with the sniper rifle. I came there with the heavy bolt rifle or the auto bolt rifle, something like that. But still, the fact that I didn't have those crack grenades, and maybe I will. I don't need. Do I really need to have 2 additional crack grenades to deal with this boss? Because there's other. And I think that I might just not restart the chapter, because something like this is very difficult going through this and stressful. And, the whole nature of the game is getting getting places where you don't have the most ideal weapons that you would want. So I think I will carry that through and just be, you know, content with what I have. Um, Unless I have other shit, I can't remember what I have. If I went in there with a bolt rifle, I'll probably restart the chapter. I don't really know, but I don't like restarting the chapters because, as I mentioned in the last video, they're inexcusably tedious and long to get back into a chapter. You know, there's all that, and then there's also redoing a bunch of footage, and that in turn, where it translates to you of me getting the guide out much slower than possible. Frag grenades. So yeah, at least I do get there with frag grenades. So maybe we can wait. I'm gonna work with what I have. I'm not going back because if I keep going back and making all these indecisions, the only reason I want to ever go back is to regain footage that I lost through capture fails. You know, because otherwise it's going to take too long. This walkthrough it'll take fucking forever. You know? And I promised my subscribers I'd get this out in a month. You know, it's been a couple weeks. There's the crack grenades. Why didn't I pick those up? Pick those up. I picked them up. But then I think I found some frag grenades. And I picked those up. And you know why I picked if I do pick up the frags again, it's because I thought there were a lot more fights in between here and the Carfax, but there aren't. So fall down here. What do we have? Looks like we have an elevator. Oh, and then we have a lights out room coming up over here. I kind of like this room. It's not scary in the way that rooms such as this, like in Dead Space, would be scary, but it's a nice, you know, unique set piece, and it isn't very difficult. You're not under much. See, it's better to think you're under a lot of pressure and danger than to really be under a lot of danger. I think that's where games like, you know, maybe the earlier Dead Space really shined, to instill within you that fear of thinking you're in more peril and in more danger than you actually were. I'm sure there's some frag grenades over here. Yeah, I'll fucking pick them up. And again, it was because I thought we had a lot more rooms that had enemy clusters, and I thought I would be able to pick up another crack grenade in a subsequent room, but we'll do it. We'll do it. We'll be happy with what we have. Because again, I to second guess yourself so many times in making this walkthrough, that's why it's been taking a long time. The game's been out for, what, a couple of months? And I have been sick. I've been ill twice, but still. What happened? Power's down. Must be the reset. You know, because I like to, personally, when I get to a boss fight or a situation that I deem to be difficult, I like to get there with exactly what I like to get there with, you know, to employ my strategy. And then if I have to make any sacrifices, I get a little perturbed. But we're back with the chainsword, I'm sorry. But since we have this weapon, you can do X hold to do that wonderful stomp. It does a terrific amount of area damage. Just look out for anybody blue lighting you. Man, that move is so fucking good. It's slow, but once you stomp, you're killing dozens of enemies. Dozens, man, dozens. We've got I'm not sure what this is. Is that a lictor? I can't tell. He kind of looked like a lictor. But I do like the AI using their special abilities to highlight those enemies and give us visibility. That was a neat introduction that they did for that room. Quite nice, quite nice. But what isn't nice is this boss fight. So as I mentioned, it's a little It's a little unfair. It's a tad broken. It's completely serviceable though, and it's just going to depend on your skill level and your reaction times and your familiarity with it. So I'll settle. I'm going to settle. I usually don't, but I'm going to settle on this one and just keep what I have. I'm not going to go, 30 minutes back, do a barge section and, mess around with all that. So let's do the boss. So when you get into the Carnifex's room, I'm going to show you what's over here. You've got a bolt rifle there, some ammo over there. And then there are 2 caches of grenades. Those are the crack grenades right there. Notice I still have the frags. There's some frag grenades right where I was just hovering over right there. And then on the other side over here by these shrine areas, there is an auto bolt rifle which I think is a really good weapon. And also right near that auto bolt rifle, there's a med kit for that. So when the boss first comes in, he's going to immediately charge you, and you want to try to get these bullet time dodges going for you. If he's far enough away, what you can do is you can do the bullet strike on him, and that deals him considerable damage. The only problem, like I said earlier, that I was alluding to, is if you do a bullet time dodge, and if it hits you, or rather if it doesn't hit you, if you're too close to him and he digs his claws into the ground, even though it might say bullet time, have that reticle for the bullet time, you don't want to do that from there because he can get up real quick and do a attack as he gets up. So you want to play that very carefully. Anytime he squats down like this, he's going to shoot 3 series of projectiles, those green spores. They take away a hell of a lot of damage, or rather shields off you. They take away both your shields through just one session of those 3 sessions of those spores. So you need to be careful. He does it at only certain times though. After you shot him a lot and he's done some melee claw attacks, he'll hunker down like this and either charge you or he'll do those spores at you. You really want to try to get these crack grenades on him, so try to close in the distance to get your lock-on going, and then lock on and then throw the crack grenades. They're very helpful, extremely helpful. Get 2 of those going for yourself, and you've dealt him 2 good chunks of his own shields there, which I guess aren't shields in totality. But do you see how we got a bullet time dodge off that last attack? We got the prompt for the bullet strike, and he was far enough away from us. In fact, he had crashed into the wall. Anytime he crashes into the wall like that, you're fine to do the bullet time. Just don't ever linger by him too long. And then you want to look for any openings of blue perfect parry windows to get your shields back. It's the best way to do it. You just have to be careful because as you are, looting the room, he's probably going to be sizing you up to do those projectile spore attacks. And, just keep baiting these enemies. I wouldn't go hog wild on killing the enemies with melee attacks. I would just kind of keep them in the ambient nature of the room, and anytime you see them light up with that blue attack, going for your perfect parry, that will guarantee one of your shields back. But I did discover something. If you're down once, your teammates can pick you up, but a second time, what happens is here I'm letting my teammates pick me up without using the Guardian Relic. But I can attest to the fact that, at least on this boss and certain other instances in this game, your Guardian Relic is auto-used the second time. So I'm not sure if that is a mechanic that is something that has a sweeping nature to it as far as the totality of the game. But if you aren't content with having your Guardian Relic auto-used, I would reset the checkpoint. And then just execute him. And it's a glorious execution as well. But that's a tough fight. Borderline broken, only because the bullet time rushes that he does, your attacks, we're both such big creatures that it's very difficult to get away unscathed from those attacks. And that's a cleared room. Now, we do have what I would consider to be an even more difficult part than any boss so far that we fought. It's a pseudo escort mission, and it involves not allowing too many enemies to rush into a reactor to destroy the reactor. And it was one of those things in the last video I mentioned that you get a very discourteous checkpoint, and that's true. You've got to do 2 sequences that are quite difficult on 1 checkpoint. And if you fail, you've got to go quite a ways back to the very beginning of the sequence, and you have to do everything with the performance you would ordinarily not need if you had a nice checkpoint in between. So I don't mind it if they wanted to be discourteous all around or courteous all around. Just see they don't strike a fine balance about the two. That's my contention. It's my issue about this game, is that if you're going to be courteous with the checkpoints, by and large, because by and large they are courteous with the checkpoints. In fact, I think they're overly courteous with them. But what rears its ugly head is those sections that are discourteous with the checkpoints and seemingly don't give a fuck about you at all, and don't care about your time, your precious time and your lifestyle and what you might want to do. But as far as like a God of War Protect the Translator on, Titan difficulty, Pain Plus, it's nothing to do with that. This game doesn't have anything on that. But I do say this game has a, an unhealthy favoritism with fetishes or something, or escort missions. Actually, let's not talk about the fetishes, because that has to do with inanimate objects, right? So I guess you learn something every time you listen to one of my videos. And we will be having. See, the problem is, right after this video is finished, my my computer became, it's been becoming increasingly unstable over the past few months, and it was after this that it completely broke down. So this is the last video that I was able to commentate, because I had a hunch that this was going to be the last one, because I was having problems with the RAM and things like that even before this, and it was a miracle that I was able to even upload this one. But this will be the last video that I make on this particular PC. So if you kind folks can donate, I've listed a description in my community tab. But don't get that the wrong way. If you love what I do on the channel and you would like to support the channel and help with the offset the cost of these computers, because I just bought one 2 years ago and now it's already broken. That was a $5,000 computer. Now I'm gonna have to switch over to a new one, which is going to be $2,000. Thankfully, I already have a 4090 that I can just plug back into the other one. But we're looking at another $2,500 computer. So if you love what I do on the channel, this weapon over here, I think you might want to pick this up. Yeah, this is the Plasma Incinerator. It's a heavy gun, and it can very effectively melt and kill and rapid kill enemies. So I would take this to the escort mission that's coming up. But don't get that the wrong way. If you can't afford to contribute to the fundraiser that I'm having, don't worry about it at all. Only about 1 or 2% of the people that watch the channel actually contribute, and that's their own. That's their own, based on their own socioeconomic status. But if you do love the channel, you love the content that I make, and you don't mind, supporting what I do in that respect, and most importantly, if you have the money to do so, because if you don't, I don't want you fundraising. These are just for the people that love what I do, want to support, and have the financial wherewithal to support. But you can give any amount. So anyway, that's my my spiel there. Okay, so coming up over here, we have I believe what we have is a cutscene. And I've got to tell you, this escort mission, it only took me a few tries, but I'm telling you, several weeks ago when I was trying to do this, I didn't have ideal weapons, and I don't even think I had the best weapons over here. I think the Plasma Incinerator heavy gun is a terrific choice, though, and I did not have that. But I don't believe that I had brought in any frag grenades that could help me, because the frag grenades are going to be very helpful in clearing up clusters of little shitty enemies, the lesser enemies. There is also a bolt rifle with a grenade launcher that can too be helpful with clearing up groups of enemies, but you're going to have to be aware that that only has 4 shots on it, and it's probably fine to use the bolt rifle with the grenade launcher in wave 1, but in wave 2 you'll want to definitely switch out rather from the grenade launcher bolt gun to the shock incinerator weapon. So I'm just going to peruse around for a second, look what's going on. Or do I? I think I know everything is. Okay. So I'll show you where things are as we progress. But the first wave is going to come over here. Actually, not there. Sorry. I was ahead of myself. There's some crack grenades there. Oh, that's a stim kit. Yeah, pick that up. And the crack grenades are right over to my right, actually. So you'll see the attention, and you want to shoot as many of these exploding canisters as you possibly can. Now, it looks like I do have the bolt rifle on, don't I? That damaged me. That need not have damaged me. That was utter stupidity on my part, but hopefully we can recover from that by doing some righteous fury. But notice we have a core integrity here of the reactor, and it cannot get to 0. Most of my deaths occurred here from what's it called? Failing the objective would be not necessarily me getting downed, but failing the objective. So you want to stay on the sidelines here as best you can, and mow down everybody who's attacking the generator. And mostly the ones that are going to be attacking the generator are the lesser enemies. So if you can get a bunch of grenades thrown in those huge groups of enemies, that will pay dividends to you. So try to have frags for the first part, and maybe even the grenade launcher. Having the shock grenades is really good too for buying time, to freezing enemies in place, and then capitalizing on kills that way while they're not being able to move, and while they're not able to be moved, they're not able to attack the reactor, so that way you can focus on killing them. But the hard thing about this is that you've got to do another difficult wave, and I would say it's even more difficult on the same checkpoint. So fortunately, before you pull the next lever, they do give you a chance to restock, re-pick up all your lost ammunition. And on each of these sequences, you will have to kill the remaining enemies that may not be attacking the generator. So just go in for your executions as best you can. And I think I do switch out my heavy incinerator for the grenade launcher just momentarily, so that I can kill some clusters of the smaller tyrannoids. Okay, so let's have a look see what I do over here. Here's the crack grenades. We're going to need those for the Zoranthropes. Okay, so here's the cache of weapons. There's me putting down the plasma incinerator for a later part, and filling up on ammunition, which I don't seem to need. Okay, so then when you hit the interact here, this commences wave 2, and it's really stressful because if you die here, you're way back. Okay, so the next groupings will come down, and I'm also going to put this here and this one over here, because I know I come on this side a lot. So I'll be back for that plasma incinerator. I now have the grenade launcher bolt rifle. So they do give you enough time to have everything, set up and get it the way you want. Just start shooting Hail Mary at these enemies as fast as you can. Note the locations of any of the exploding canisters to get cluster kills, and then use the grenade launcher to kill all these clusters, and because all these guys are gonna come up here and attack the incinerator. So we're at 68, not too shabby. Could be a little bit better, but again, not too shabby. So we're gonna hang back here, and we've got crack grenades, but again, we need to save those for the Zoranthropes, because they're gonna cause all told number of problems. And again, just keep looking out for that blue flash. That's gonna give you your shields back. Watch out for snipers, so hang back behind the pillars. And then once you see the Zoranthropes getting close to you, watch this first one because I think it misses. I locked onto him and I missed, but this one landed on him. I was able to down him. That was unfortunate though that the first one missed, and I had locked on him. I guess that just means he's being too shifty bitch. So just keep going for executions. You got to prioritize on the spot. This is a dynamic sequence, guys. If you're getting overrun, you might want to back off. I mean, if people are overrunning the generator, you might want to back off, sacrifice maybe getting an execution. But you really can't sacrifice and sleep on these enemies. These enemies have got to go. Okay, because they're just going to fortify everybody and cause more damage to the generator potentially. So you need to be very quick there. But I would say sitting on the sidelines, so that you have a great view of all of those little Tyrannoids running up to the reactor, then mowing them down with frag grenades and with the the plasma incinerator heavy gun. That's good as well. In fact, it's a great way to do it. It's just that you've got to micromanage everything, realize where all the pickups are, and unfortunately, you're not always going to be next to where the pickups are, so you're going to have to put yourself out, go to different spots, locations. Things could be going wrong this way or that way or 1,000 other fucking ways, and that's what makes this sequence very difficult. And that is the end of Operation 3, in fact. I will see you on the 4th one, and until then, please do take care.